New Thought Media Network. We are a global broadcast network of positive music, media, and entertainment, inspiring humanity's evolution along the journey of enlightenment and creating a world of love, peace, empowerment, and prosperity for all. New Thought Media Network. Positively inspiring.
And hello again, dear ones. Reverend Robert with you, forgetting to turn off the banner. Hi, how you doing? The Growing Edge, episode number 5. Today we have an opportunity to grow, to be on the growing edge of a topic that I never like talking about. And the last thing I like hearing also is that today's not the day to talk about this. Because if today's not the day to talk about what we're going to talk about here, then I don't think there ever is a day to talk about it. If you live anywhere within earshot of social media and news and what's going on in the world, I imagine you probably know by now what happened in Boulder, Colorado yesterday afternoon. And many of you know that not only do I live in Colorado, I've been in that specific supermarket in my life numerous times, not any time recently. Here's the tough part, though. The young man involved, 21, older brother 34, described him as extremely antisocial and believes he's mentally disturbed, I think is the word his brother used. We can be fairly confident there's some mental issues there. What we just learned recently is that young man's from Arvada, Colorado. He's not actually from Boulder, Colorado. Now, Arvada, Colorado is right down the road from Boulder, 20, 25 miles, depending on what part of town, where in Arvada you're going. And I've been living in Arvada, my family and I, for the last, 5 years. We got back from Washington. We've been living in Arvada for 5 years. I didn't realize yesterday afternoon when I heard this story, or when it started to unfold, and nobody really knew anything. And obviously, I didn't know this last night. I didn't know this when I went to bed last night. I don't know that my wife knows it yet. Don't really relish telling my kids this because they're going to hear it somewhere. And I believe it's better to hear it from me and her and from us than other places. And that young man lived in our town. It could have been my supermarket. Could have been any of the supermarkets around in the area. 20 miles. Denver Metro, 20 miles. 20 miles from Boulder, from where that young man was. Yeah, there's less, but from where he lived, a 20-mile radius covers a lot of supermarkets. So the growing edge today is, how do we honor? How do we heal? How do we have these conversations? How do we address this? I got all kinds of words I can use for it, but the first thing we need to do today, and the thing I want to do today, is while I don't have pictures, and it was just a short time ago this morning when the police in Boulder released some names and ages and some identities, and I've spent a good portion of my morning doing quick searches, making sure none of these folks are on my friends list anyhow. But I'm pretty sure they're on a friend of a friend list. And what I know is we're all one. There is no separation. We all feel this pain today. We all feel this hurt today. A great ripple, and some of us are just a lot closer to the point of what do I call that? Going to refer to Mike. I've been thinking a lot about Michael Singer today too. When we get hit with an emotional slap, whatever the hit is, we hold on to it. It grows into something. We acknowledge it. We honor it. We let it go. The rage, the hurt, the pain, the accusation, the judgment, they don't grow within us and become something. So in all of the experiences throughout my life in being a religious scientist, if you will, we always turn to prayer. And so I'm going to set up a little quick prayer here today. I thought I didn't. Okay. And I have the names of those that lost their lives yesterday in Boulder. I'm going to run those across the screen, and we're going to take 10 seconds for each person. So we're going to take 120 or 100 seconds in silence. And so I invite you to join me. Join me in consciousness. If you're in a place where it's safe and comfortable to close your eyes, please do so. As we join in a recognition of the oneness that is all life. As we recognize the oneness that is all life, that is expressing as my life, as your life, and as the lives of those that departed yesterday for other realms, for other states of being, who for whatever reason gave of their lives, so we, those here, may grow and may expand in consciousness, so we may come to a new understanding, a new way of experiencing, a new conversation, a new voice. And so today we stand in honor and in love for Denny Strong, whose name will come across the screen here. It is for Denny Strong and Nevin Stanistic, Ricky Olds, Trelona Brakowkic, Suzanne Fontaine, Terry Leiker, Boulder Police Officer Eric Talley, Kevin Mahoney, Lynn Murray, and Jody Waters. If you would, please join me in 10 seconds of silence for each name here brought forth today. Each of these people, 10 seconds of silence for each. We enter into the deep. And from the silence, from the stillness, we raise up each one of these dear, dear souls, knowing they have made that transition to a greater dimension of livingness. And we honor and recognize the contributions they've made to this thing called life. And as we allow the light to be extinguished, we speak a word of prayer for each one. A word of peace for everyone that is touched by this experience, this incident. A word of peace for each family member. A word of peace for the police officers who lost a brother, for the family members who lost children and aunts and nephews and cousins. Today we call forth peace. And today we stand in honor of these individuals willing to have the hard discussions, willing to consider the difficult truth, and willing to serve a vision moving forward as our lives, willing to be the vision of a world that works for everyone and to bring forth the gift that each one is here to give. Knowing we each bring forth a mighty, mighty gift into this thing called life. I claim for each a deep sense of saying yes to the deep calling within, to give from this life, to give something new, to take from this experience, to take from the pain and the suffering and the question and the wonder and the weirdness of it all, and be an avenue through which the divine reveals itself, a greater vision of life on this planet, a greater vision of community and society, and how this all can work for all. So I raise up that vibration of peace. I raise up a vibration of faith and trust, not knowing how or why any of this had to occur, but knowing that as we stay true to the one, that the good in all of this must reveal itself. And all is well. So I let it be. And so it is. And so it is. We start in prayer. I always turn to the prayer, and I never know exactly what the prayer is going to hold, but I turn to the prayer because somewhere in the prayer there is that light switch that turns on. And I've spoken with colleagues and other friends, and as a speaker and a minister, and there's a moment when you're walking out from behind the stage curtain, or you're been sitting in a chair on stage and waiting for to go on and to speak and to share a message or to start a workshop, and there's a moment where it just switches. And in a lot of ways, it's no longer me. It's that allowing of the divine to express itself. And I have felt this in the literal falling of a foot, walking onto a stage, and can literally, in the midst of a step, feel that transition to letting go of what I thought wanted to happen, what I've prepared, what's out there waiting for me, because the talk's always out there waiting for me, right? The next part of this experience is always out there waiting for me, waiting for you, waiting for each one of us. The next experience of how to process and what to do with the information that's been gathered because of the events of the last couple of yesterday, that's all out there in front of me. And I get the opportunity to, how do I want to be, how do I want to grow from this? How do I want to learn from this? This is the growing edge right here. How do we come to a place of oneness in the midst of this? And still realize that this young man who people are already labeling, his closest family are already labeling, how do we have a true discussion about all the intersections that are happening here? So there's a mental illness discussion happening here. There's a gun issue happening here. And the young man's name would appear to be of Middle Eastern descent. Nobody, anything I've seen on any of the reports indicate where he was born. I saw one report that said he has been in the United States most of his life, but it didn't say all. And I don't know, and I don't want to speculate, and I don't want to pretend that I know or can guess what this young man's motivation and mind and consciousness were. But what it would appear is that a mentally ill young man got a hold of a high-powered assault rifle, weapon of mass killing, whatever we want to call it. Don't know all the details on that, but he had a weapon. How do we reconcile as a people? How do we reconcile that intersection of fear and violence with this ideal of a world that works for everyone? Because there are those that are going to say, in a world that works for everyone, we have to have guns. How could we have a world that works for everyone if we don't have guns? And I'm not saying we have to be done with guns. I'm not saying that every gun on this planet has to be rounded up. And I'm not saying that, every gun needs to be melted back down. I'm not one to use guns. I've never been one. Fired some guns when I was younger in my teenage years, and it wasn't that big a part of it wasn't a part of my immediate family at all. And as I grew, I started to see the destruction that happens when individuals are allowed easy access to guns. And places where the access is much, much more difficult is much appear to have a lot less violence, appear to have a lot less of this. I was in Colorado in 2012 when the Aurora shooting happened. I wasn't here when Columbine happened, but I knew about it. I was here in 2012 when the theater shooting happened in Aurora, and while I didn't know the one woman really more than acquaintance, we had an acquaintance in the building. Someone actually, my wife did know, was in that theater. And others in our immediate circle knew her. And she was a part of the New Thought movement. She was part of the spiritual community here at that time. And her children. I'm living in a world where I don't know any one person that isn't more than a couple of degrees away, a couple of degrees of connection away from somebody who's been affected by gun violence. And this is a big country. It shouldn't be like that. And I need to, I feel, right, my growing edge is, part of me feels like, oops, snugga. There, we should have been having this conversation. We forgot to keep having this conversation. I've gotten so wrapped up in COVID and in my own ministry and doing my stuff, trying to keep everything moving in all these different Somebody asked me the other day, "Are you born a juggler?" I was like, "Nope," but I learned pretty early in my life, and I still practice. Uh, and in all of that, get myself off track here a little bit. So sorry. In all of that, I lost track that we were we needed to be having a conversation in this nation about responsible gun ownership, gun safety. It's not a ban on guns. Nobody's coming to take everybody's guns away. We just want to make sure that people that might have a tendency to pop off in a supermarket don't have easy access to them. Now, I haven't seen anything yet how this young man got to this weapon. And my growing, and in years past, and I'll tell you, in the years past, this would have been I would have looked at this from a much, much different perspective. I did. In Aurora, today in my life, I have a lot more compassion for that young man. Because for whatever reasoning, for whatever logic, for whatever's going on in his life, and whatever it has taken to get him to where he was yesterday, whatever it took for him to get to the point where he thought the way to solve his problems, or the way to bring attention to his concerns, or whatever it is that he was about, he thought that was the way to do it. That is where our prayer work is. That is where our prayer work is in many, many ways. Yes, we pray for those that gave their souls yesterday, however consciously or not, so that we can have this conversation. Because I'm tired of hearing people saying, "Oh, today's not the day to have the conversation." And if we didn't learn anything from Atlanta 2 weeks ago, I mean, it's back, folks. The weekly atrocity, it seems not, all right, it's not back. We're going to affirm that there's some peace in this country in the coming weeks, right? But that's 2 weeks. This is back to what we were before the pandemic. We don't want to go back there. And we haven't changed anything. We haven't changed anything in years, it seems, and forever, it seems. So let's start moving the needle. I don't know what it looks like. I'm not a politician. I'm not here to try to please everybody. But what I'm saying is, that guy lived in my town. That could have been my supermarket. That's my growing edge. To find compassion that young man lives in my town and wasn't getting the help that was necessary, the help that somebody in his family saw, that we forgot to have the conversation about how we responsibly own guns in this state, in this country, this town. So before I run out of time here today, and before I get emotional on you, let's get into some prayer, and let's get to affirming the truth of it all. that there is compassion for that young man, that there is love and compassion and honor for each one that was in any way involved with yesterday's incidences, that are in any way touched by any of these incidences, and coming to a place of knowing that our work must be about, yes, mourning and honoring and respecting those that have gone on to the other dimension, to the next degree of livingness. And in that same breath, in the same breath of releasing and letting go, I bring in a commitment. I breathe in a deep commitment to be part of the next conversation, the next solution, to not let this become just the next thing of the next week, but to remember day by day by day, there is a conversation to be had. And in whatever way I am called, whatever way it feels, I serve, and I bring a voice of peace. I bring a word of peace. I bring a word of love and hope and trust and compassion, and even in the horrible darkness of it, when it feels the heart is breaking so very wide open, it is that moment that the heart is most open, that more light may pour in, that more compassion may pour in, may more awareness and understanding, and may more alignment and connection, may that deep recognition of the oneness of life and the grace of life. I'm so in love with this thing called life. And while I may not understand everything about yesterday, and it may be a long, long time before we understand the what and the why and all of the exact how and who. Truth is, we bring more love. Our call is to bring more love, to bring a greater voice to the conversation of a world that serves and supports and works for all. A world where the solution is not violence and guns, a world where compassion and love abounds, where violence in its rarest of forms is met with compassion, and only in the rarest of occasions, and not even that. We're on this trail, we're on this journey of eliminating gun violence across the planet. We may not all see the end result. We may not all make that journey completely together, but the journey has been begun. In consciousness, there is a movement to bring more responsibility, to bring more compassion, to bring more understanding, more responsibility. If that means more regulation, so be it. But what I know is that the voice has been raised. The call is being echoed. There must be peace in the land. And we must serve those confused and feeling as if they are cast aside and wander, so everyone may recognize they belong. And that while we are all in this together, we're not all in the same boats. We're all bumping up against each other. And the time comes when each one must reach out and say, I shall lift you, I shall serve in this way, I shall help in this way, whatever it may be. And together we awaken to the oneness that is life. So I am grateful for this, as hard as it may be. Grateful for the opportunity to be in spiritual community and process, and this and prayer in love, in compassion. To let go and to let it be. And so it is. Oh, and so it is. Thank you, dear ones, for being with me today. This is not exactly what this program is designed to be. However, it is what it is today. And it is the growing edge today. It's my growing edge, and I know it's a growing edge for a lot of people that are directly and indirectly connected to the New Thought Media Network and what we're doing here. And Boulder as a whole. Peace and love for Atlanta and healing for Atlanta. Peace and love for Boulder, healing for Boulder. Let us affirm and know that this does not have to be the new hit of the week. This does not have to be the greatest. We don't have to experience this again. Thank you for being a part of the New Thought Media Network. If this is touching you in any way and you're in a place and a position and a means to contribute and support us financially, that is appreciated. Thank you. There's a link in the description of today's show. I appreciate that. It keeps all the gears running. It keeps all the people that are making this happen in the resources and all the things we need to do. So keep your eyes out. There's a lot of really great things coming in the very near future here on New Thought Media Network. We'll let you know about those as they're happening. For now, I'm running over, so I'm going to get out of here, let you get back to what's up on your world. And hey, do remember, Rev Jody is with us at noon for Treasures from the Tao. Happens every Tuesday at noon Mountain Time. 15-minute quick hit live experience of Treasures from the Tao. I am personally looking forward to Reverend Jody's experience. She also serves and leads the Center for Spiritual Living Boulder Valley here in Colorado, so even a little closer to Boulder than I am on that. And so we invite you to join us for that. And then later this afternoon, my brother Reverend Zia and I will be together for New Thought Today. That happens at 2:00. And that's a religious science perspective exploring an integral approach to New Thought. So thank you again for being with me. I think I mentioned this at the top of the show, but if I didn't, please know that I'm going to be in the desert during this hour next week and at this time frame. So we're only a handful of episodes into the program. I don't see why I would do a best of or anything yet, because I'd rather you watch the episode. So we're going to take next week off, take a quick break, taking a few days to get away with the family and spring break, and decompress and allow a vision to reinvigorate. So please know that we won't be here next Tuesday, but we'll be back the Tuesday after that, which is the 6th of April, right following the Easter weekend. We'll be back again on the 6th. Thanks for being with us. I love you. I appreciate you. You are an amazing being, and I love you just the way you are. So we're out of here for now. We'll see you again soon. Until then, peace and blessings. Bye now.